The story begins with a projector presentation. We hear a narrator explaining that evil witches exist and are real. They hate children, and their only purpose in life is to find them and kill them. Then we move to the film's story, set in 1986. An 8-year-old boy loses his parents in an accident. Afterward, he goes to live with his grandmother in Alabama. She puts him in a room that once belonged to his mother and leaves him there while she makes cocoa milk to calm him down. Sitting among his mother's memories, he feels overwhelmed by grief. His grandmother tries to comfort him, but nothing helps at first. He refuses to eat and does not want to go outside to play with the neighborhood kids. His grandmother speaks to him from the heart, telling him that sometimes God decrees things we don't want, but that doesn't make them wrong. God always plans what is good for us. She says his mother is surely in a better place, and that there is wisdom in why he lost her so young. The boy feels comforted by her words and begins to eat. The next day, his grandmother brings him a mouse so he won't feel lonely. He names it Daisy. Over the following days, the boy starts returning to normal, caring for Daisy, playing with her, and even dancing with his grandmother. But a strange woman watches them from afar, and the grandmother begins coughing heavily. The next day, the boy and his grandmother go to the grocery store. He wants to buy nails to build Daisy a house. While she waits, she coughs again. In the nails aisle, the boy meets the strange woman, who gives him a piece of candy. He notices a snake crawling on her arm. She tells him it is tame, but he is clearly nervous. His grandmother realizes he is late and goes to look for him, but the strange woman disappears as soon as she arrives. At home, the boy describes what he saw. His grandmother questions him, confirming her fears. She explains that the woman was an evil witch and tells him how, when she was young, she saw a witch give her friend candy. The next day, the girl turned into a chicken. No one believed the grandmother, and the girl remained a chicken for the rest of her life. After telling the story, the grandmother goes to a secret room full of healing herbs and spiritual tools. She picks up a crystal, places it on her forehead, and declares that they must leave for a fancy hotel. Witches prey on the poor, she says, so the hotel will be safer. On the way, she warns him that witches all follow the ugliest and most powerful witch of all, the Grand High Witch. They arrive at the hotel. While the grandmother books their room, the boy notices another boy whose mother mistreats him. Suddenly, a large group of witches enters the hotel, led by the Grand High Witch herself. The manager greets them but complains about their cat. She coldly asks what he would do if he found mice in his hotel. He says he would call a special company, which seems to satisfy her. That night, the grandmother coughs badly in bed. She tells her grandson that witches are not truly women but demons in disguise. They can be recognized by their makeup, large nostrils, glove hiding their 3-finger hands, high heels covering deformed feet, and hats concealing bald heads. She reassures him that the witches don't know where they are staying, but the Grand High Witch's cat spies on them and reports back. The next morning, the boy orders breakfast for his grandmother. She is delighted and lets him go explore. He wanders the hotel and sees a sign reading Children's Meeting. Before entering, he runs into Bruno, the boy from reception. Bruno says a nice lady promised him 6 chocolate bars if he came to the meeting. His mother appears and drags him away, so the boy enters alone. Inside, the witches file in. He hides under the stage. The Grand High Witch orders them to lock the door and then commands them to remove their hats, revealing bald heads. She berates a witch for failing to kill a child. Another asks why they bother turning children into mice before killing them. The Grand High Witch vaporizes her for questioning, but then calls it a good question and explains her plan. She says they will open a candy shop with money hidden in room 666, coating all the sweets with a potion that will turn children into mice so they can be exterminated easily. She mentions inviting Bruno with a promise of chocolate. Just as she sniffs out the boy's scent and flips the stage to search for him, Bruno walks in. She gives him chocolate, and as soon as he eats it, he convulses and turns into a mouse. The witches chase Bruno, trying to kill him. Through a ventilation vent, we see the boy and Daisy hiding. To his shock, Daisy speaks. She rushes to help Bruno and manages to bring him to safety. But the Grand High Witch discovers the boy, drags him out, and tries to force the potion into his mouth. He refuses, so they drop a single drop into his ear. He convulses and transforms into a mouse. With Daisy and Bruno's help, he escapes into the ventilation shaft. The Grand High Witch reaches in after them, but her hand smashes into a fan, injuring her 3 fingers. The mice stop to rest. Daisy begins speaking, explaining that witches turn children into mice so they can kill them easily. She reveals that she used to be a beautiful girl, but was turned into a mouse and managed to escape before they killed her. The boy decides to go with Daisy and Bruno to his grandmother's room. On their way, they pass through the kitchen. When they reach the room, a hotel maid sees them and tries to kill them. Just before she can, the grandmother opens her door to see where the noise is coming from, and the mice rush inside. The maid locks the grandmother in the room with the mice to contain the situation until pest control can be called. The boy starts talking, explaining to his grandmother what happened. She realizes that her grandson has been turned into a mouse by the witches. Daisy also speaks, telling them that a year ago, she escaped from an orphanage after taking candy from a woman she didn't know. Since then, she has been a mouse. She reveals her real name is Mary. The boy tells his grandmother about the Grand High Witch's plan and that she is looking for them to kill them. As soon as his grandmother hears the plan, she puts the mice in her handbag to hide them from the pest control company. Bruno struggles to resist the smell of cheese in a trap. After the exterminator leaves, the grandmother tells them she can make an antidote to the mouse potion, but only if she has the original potion. They all decide to get it. They watch the Grand High Witch put the potion in the icebox and leave. The grandmother gets a cloth bag, puts the boy inside, and lowers him with a rope. The boy manages to steal the potion bottle and returns to the bag so his grandmother can pull him up. But just then, the Grand High Witch enters with her cat and blocks his way. She opens a cupboard full of money. The boy takes advantage of her distraction, runs to the cloth bag, and climbs in. His grandmother tries to pull him up quickly, but the Grand High Witch grabs them. She tells the grandmother she feels like she's seen her before. The boy is terrified, thinking his end is near. At that moment, the hotel manager enters and brings a cage for her cat. The Grand High Witch becomes angry and says her cat doesn't like to be locked up. But to everyone's surprise, the cat walks into the cage on its own and seems to love it. Irritated, the Grand High Witch tells the manager to make sure her soup has no salt and no garlic. After the manager leaves, she locks her cat in the cage. Meanwhile, the grandmother takes the mouse potion and tries to reverse its effect but fails. This means the mice will remain as they are and never return to being children. The grandmother is very sad, but the boy tells her it doesn't matter what he looks like as long as she cares for him all his life. She promises she will always care for him and his friends. Daisy encourages them, saying they can still defeat the witches even as mice. The boy suggests putting the witch's potion into their soup to save the children from their evil. The grandmother takes the mice to carry out the plan. They sneak into the kitchen and pour the entire potion into the garlic-free soup. Unfortunately, one of the cooks sees the boy leaving and reports it to pest control. Bruno then shows the grandmother where his father and mother are. She decides to talk to them and reveal the truth about their son. But when Bruno appears before them, they are terrified and scream hysterically. Afterwards, the boy and Daisy return to the grandmother, enter her bag, and watch the witches as they eat their soup. Suddenly, the hotel manager asks her about the mice she is hiding. The grandmother denies his claims and threatens to expose to the hotel guest that there are mice inside. To silence her, he reserves for her the fanciest table in the restaurant, which happens to be close to the witch's table. Just before the Grand High Witch takes her first spoonful, she notices the grandmother and approaches. She mocks her, saying she remembers turning her friend into a chicken. But suddenly, her expression changes as she sees the witches starting to transform into hideous mice. The mice take advantage of the distraction and steal the key to her room from her pocket. Chaos spreads everywhere. At the same time, the grandmother and the mice head to the Grand High Witch's room. Inside, they find a huge amount of potions. The grandmother decides to take all of it, but one bottle falls under the bed and the mice climb down to get it. At that moment, the Grand High Witch enters the room and catches the grandmother stealing the potions. She attacks her and threatens to kill her. As she approaches, the mice set a mousetrap on her leg and pour the potion into her mouth. The Grand High Witch transforms into a hideous mutant rat. She chases the mice among the traps, but the grandmother traps her under a glass container and places books on top. The mice search the room for the key to the money safe and eventually find it. They open the safe and discover a huge amount of money, along with a book containing the names of all the witches in the world. Together, they plan to hunt down every witch and turn them into mice. Before leaving the room, the grandmother frees the Grand High Witch's cat, puts it inside with her, and says, "Have a nice time together." The next day, the grandmother and the mice leave the hotel, happy with what they did to the Grand High Witch. She starts giving generous tips to everyone she meets. She goes to Bruno's mother to give him a chance to talk to her, but when Bruno tries to explain he is her son and that a witch turned him into a mouse, she refuses to believe him. Bruno decides to live permanently with the grandmother, the boy, and Daisy. Later, we see them at home, with the mice playing with toys and enjoying themselves. The boy tells his grandmother that even though he became a mouse, he still feels human. She tells him it's not about appearance, it's about the heart, and that she will always see him as her grandson. Because the lifespan of mice is short, the boy decides not to waste any time with his new family. We then see the grandmother and the mice dancing together at Christmas while projector continues showing slides of their adventures, including pictures of the car they bought labeled Witch Hunters. At the very end of the film, we see the boy has grown into an old mouse, and we realize that the voice we heard at the start of the movie during the projector scene was his voice telling his story to other children. He tells them that after defeating the witches in Los Angeles, they will expand their mission and hunt witches all over the world, turning them into mice and saving children from them. The children cheer and applaud him, and we understand that these children are the army he has recruited to help him hunt witches. The children quickly leave the room, and the grandmother approaches the boy, saying, "So, hero, are you ready?" He replies, "Never in my life have I been more ready than now." And with that, the movie ends. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.